Hare Krishna. Am I audible? Anyone? Can you hear me?
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Prabhu,
Krishna.
can you talk now?
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
We are not able to hear you, Prabhu.
We can hear you on Zoom.
Oh, okay. So Shobharadi Mataji is able to hear us on Zoom. Thank you, Mataji, for confirming.
Can I take out the Sheila?
Yeah, I'm going to go back to you. It doesn't seem to be working.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama.
Prabhu, we're good.
Good. Yeah, I can
We're
hear.
live. We got sound. Sorry for the interruption, everybody. Shyam Prabhu, it's all yours.
Thank you, Dhruva Prabhu. Hare Krishna. So, thank you, everyone, for giving me an opportunity to remember this auspicious occasion of the disappearance of Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur. So we are celebrating the disappearance day today of His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur. Now, Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita talks about Janma Karma Chame Divyam, that the appearance, Janma and Karma, activities of Lord Krishna as Divyam, as transcendental. We also see the Janma, the birth and Karma activities of devotees are also transcendental. So such occasions, the appearance and disappearance days of great Vaishnava Acharyas gives us an opportunity to channel their mercy upon us. So these are the days or the occasions when we actually can learn more about the reasons of their appearance, their glorious activities, and these actually purify us. So the purification leads gratitude to take place in our heart. Gratitude for these acharyas leads us to attachment to these acharyas. So gratitude and attachment to these acharyas impel us to follow their divine instructions. And when we follow their divine instructions, we actually derive their mercy. So this is the process that we want to follow on the auspicious occasions on days like this. So in material world, it is very easy to understand celebrating the birthdays. But how do we understand the celebrations when somebody disappears, when there is death? How do we understand? How do we see that? So actually, on one of the occasions of the disappearance of Srila Haridas Thakur, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur himself gave this famous, very famous quote that gives us instructions on how do we see the disappearance of Vaishnavas. So the quote, it's a very famous quote. Most of you must have heard it. He reasons ill who tells that Vaishnavas die, when thou art living still in sound. Vaishnavas die to live, and living try to spread the holy name around. End of quote. I'll repeat this again. Very important for us to meditate on this. He reasons ill who tells that Vaishnavas die, when thou art living still in sound. The Vaishnavas die to live, and living try to preach the glories of holy name around. Try to spread the glories of holy name around. So this is how we actually can see the death of, or the disappearance of these great acharyas, because we know the body is temporary, it has to go. But what is more important is absorbing the Vani, the sound that carries forward forever. Srila Prabhupada also said, I'll never die. I'll live forever in my books. And those sincere devotees that connect with these great acharyas through their sincerity and service, when they connect with these great acharyas, even when their physical appearance is not present on this planet, they have experience of interactions with these great acharyas. In fact, Srila Prabhupada always said this, that when he came to US in 1965, Srila Prabhupada was alone. There was not even one single person that came to receive Srila Prabhupada when Prabhupada came to US. But then Srila Prabhupada always remembered, he said, I always felt the presence of my Guru Maharaj with me, His Divine Grace Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj. So the important aspect for us to remember is Vaishnava Acharya's disappearance doesn't make them disappear. In fact, Vaishnava Acharyas, they live forever. And actually, as it happened, the year that Srila Prabhupada left this planet, the book distribution exploded. So I remember His Grace Ravindra Swarup Prabhu, who wrote a paper on His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, establishing Srila Prabhupada's position in ISKCON, mentioning that we are so close to Srila Prabhupada in terms of time. It's just like we are standing right next to a huge mountain. We don't see the magnitude of this mountain. But as time passes, as we move away from the mountain, we can see the magnitude of the mountain, how tall the mountain is, how huge the mountain is. So as the time passes, the great activities of these acharyas embedded in the sound actually has tremendous effect. So we will see this is so true in case of Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur. Actually, ISKCON as we see today, the main architect, the seeds, even though was sown by Lord Chaitanya, it was lost in the middle, but with the appearance of his Divine Grace Bhakti Vinod Thakur, this was revived, and the new architecture was formed. The pattern that we see in ISKCON today, the architect of that pattern was Bhakti Vinod Thakur. And that is why it's very important for us to recollect, remember, and seek the mercy of Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur on occasions like this. So in order to understand the prominence of Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, we have to understand the situation that was there at the time of his birth, and during the years of his formative years, and the struggles that Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur underwent. These are actually struggles for our eyes, but these are not struggles. Actually, the empowerment was there. So just fast forwarding, just to place things in the right context, we want to understand who this personality is, and then see the context in which the appearance happened and then his activities happened. So in 1893, so Bhakti Vinod Thakur was born in 1838, but in 1893, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur wrote a song composition, a set of songs called Gitamala. It was published in 1893. And in Gitamala, Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur reveals who he is in his Swarupa. So I'm reading it's written in Bengali, the English translation I'm reading. So Bhakti Vinod Thakur revealed his name is Kamala Manjari. So just a little bit of background. So we have Radha Krishna, and then Srimati Radharani serves Krishna with the help of Sakhis. There are 8 primary Sakhis, Ashta Sakhis. And these 8 Sakhis are in turn assisted by Manjaris. And these 8 Sakhis are headed by Lalita Sakhi. And then the Manjaris are headed by Rupa Manjari. And this Rupa Manjari herself came and took part in Sri Chaitanya Leela as Rupa Goswami. That is why we are all called Rupanugas. And Bhakti Vinod Thakur is called Rupanuga Varayata. He is the foremost of all the Rupanugas. Why? Because in his original Swarupa, as revealed by himself in Gitamala, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur is saying he is Kamala Manjari. So Kamala Manjari is one of the Manjaris that were assisting primarily Lalita Sakhi. Lalita Sakhi was being assisted by Kamala Manjari. And Kamala Manjari was part of the Manjari group that was headed by Rupa Manjari, because Rupa Manjari was the leader of all the Kamala Manjaris, Rupanugas. We become Rupanugas. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is the foremost of the Rupanugas, the foremost of the followers of Rupanuga. So the translation reads like this: this maidservant has a complexion just like lightning, and she is wearing a sari which has star-like decorations all over it. My name is Kamala Manjari, eternally appearing to be only 12.5 years of age. I always live within the abode of Swananda Sukhada Kunj. And in fact, this was the name that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur had given for his kutir, his place of living in Godrumet Deep, where the place still exists. So it's called Swananda Sukhada Kunj. And then in the next paragraph, it continues: I render service of preparing the camphor within the assembly of Lalita Sikhi, of whom Sri Radha is the leader and the center of all their activities. So these are not, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is not an ordinary jiva. He is a Nitya Siddha, Nitya Mukta. Now, Lord Krishna, for a specific function, for a specific purpose, sent Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So how, why? So the reason, we have to go back a little more. So we see in 1496, Srila Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared, and then he continued his Leela for the next 48 years. Now, we see Lord Chaitanya did not leave us a trove of literature, but his teachings were transferred. His divine instructions were given to 6 Goswamis, headed by Rupa Goswami. So 6 Goswamis were prolific writers. They wrote establishing Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's position as Kali Yuga Avatar, and they wrote extensively about Krishna consciousness, inculcating the true teachings of Lord Chaitanya. Now, this is the golden age, the 1500 years, 1500 to the early 1600 is the golden age, where 6 Goswamis spread the message of Lord Chaitanya wide and far. Then assisted by Shyamananda Pandit, Srinivas Acharya, Narottam Das Thakur. These are Acharya Traya that actually carried the books that were written by 6 Goswamis to wide and far. They were the first preachers, book distributors. So the movement flourished under this great leadership. Then what happened in 1600, the movement lost a little bit of its ground. But then there appeared 2 other great empowered acharyas, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and his disciple Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan. So they actually took up the work that was left behind to spread the Krishna consciousness. But a large part of their work was devoted to the scholarly class. Actually, we see Baldev Vidyabhushana wrote the Vedanta Sutra commentary, which was lacking. There was a large criticism that Gaudiya Vaishnava, Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya is not an actual Sampradaya because it lacks the Prasthana Traya, part of which was the Bhashya and Brahma Sutra. So they were scholarly, but then their impact only was appreciated by the scholarly class. most of their compositions were in Sanskrit. So this went on up till about early 1700s. So about late 1700s to early 1800s, there was no such prominent leader. So what happened? As Lord Krishna says, Sakale neha mahata yogo nashtaha parantapa. So as time passes, a lot of additions, deletions take place, a lot of distortions come in. And actually, as Srila Prabhupada points out in Chaitanya Madhya Leela 1.271 translation, there were 13 apasampradayas that came. All of them were claiming that they were the real followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They were the authentic succession of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But none of them actually were following the true teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Some of these names Srila Prabhupada quotes, some of these names may be very familiar. Aula, Baula, Kartabhajana, Neda, Sahajiya, Sakhi Bheki, Gauranga Nagari, and some of these are so abominable. I think to understand the activities of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and how he transformed the lost teachings of Chaitanya to what we have today, it's very important for us to understand how deviated these apasampradayas were, who were claiming that they were actually the real sampradayas. One example is Gauranagari. This sampradaya, they were claiming that Lord Krishna did Rasa Leela, but when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came, because he took up sannyas, he didn't want to do Rasa Leela. So Gauranga Nagaris, what they did, they said it is pleasing to Lord Chaitanya if, as his followers, we involve ourselves in Rasa Leela. So they started imitating Rasa Leela and started giving it color that this is the most pleasing thing to Lord Chaitanya. Abominable. There is also this Sakhi Bheki, very famous, where the thinking was that since Lord Chaitanya came in the mood of a devotee, Lord Krishna himself, but then he came in the mood of Radharani. So he said the best way to, the Sakhi Bheki said the best way to serve Lord Chaitanya and please him is if we become his Sakhis in order to please Krishna. So what they did, they wanted to give up their masculine features. They wanted to dress up like women, wear ornaments like women, act like women, talk like women. So this was the other apasampradaya. Like this, there were about 13 apasampradayas that had distorted the real meaning of Lord Chaitanya's teachings. So this was the time in 1838, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur made his appearance. And actually, as we see throughout his childhood, I'm going to make this faster. We started late and I don't want to go too late. So we see throughout his childhood, he was a very sharp, he had a very sharp intellect. He was very devoted, had great faith in holy name. And then when he came in touch with Lord Chaitanya's teachings, he was totally taken over. So we see he was a successful grahastha. He had 10 children. He was a district magistrate under the British rule. District magistrate was a very high post. It is said that this was the number 2. First was the governor, and then right under him was the district magistrate. Very high post. And he was very efficient, and he was very straightforward. He wouldn't mince word. And then he was fearless. His preaching, if you look at his dinachari, the daily activities, he would write continuously. He would spend hours doing Shastra Adhyayana. And because of his purity, because of his dedication he was feared by all these 13 apasampradayas. So anybody, if they wanted, if they heard about just Bhaktivinoda Thakur, they were actually very scared. So over a period of time, through his prolific writing, through his position also as a high official in government, Bhaktivinoda Thakur revived the last glory of Sri Chaitanya's actual teachings. Actually, there is a story that Chaitanya Charitamrita itself was lost. So for 8 years, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur searched for a genuine copy of Chaitanya Charitamrita because there was no press at that time. Everything was handwritten. So when he discovered Chaitanya Charitamrita, he was ecstatic. It is said that when he read Chaitanya Charitamrita, a transformation occurred where he could actually understand his real position. So we see Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote more than 100 books, even though some of those books are still being published. Prolific writing, it's not easy. He wrote over 100 books. His preachings, like when he towards the end of his government service, he went to Navadvip. He was living in Godrumadvip, and that is where he established Namahattas. Namahattas, the today's Bhakti Vrikshas, they are actually patterned in line with the Namahattas. So establishing these over 500 Namahattas, what Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur did was he was able to reach a common man, a man in the street. He wasn't limited to only the scholarly class. He was very expert in that scholarly class. He was well known for his understanding of scriptures. Not only that, the major his contribution was that reaching the common man in the street. And actually, there was also one apasampradayam, which was Jati Gosai. They prevented anybody that is not born in a jati from getting initiated into the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. And that is where we see Srila Prabhupada, when he came to West, when he started Brahmin initiating, especially the Western devotees, there was a lot of criticism. There was a lot of opposition from the upper class in India. And this seed actually was sown by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur because he didn't care that Lord Chaitanya's message had to be given only to through the birth. And then the amazing part, not only we are talking about late 1800s, and the offset printing just had come about. So during that time, the Western preaching, this was the first effort that Srila Prabhupada later on made this a dream. The first effort, the seeds were actually planted by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So in 1886 or in the early 1890s, his books that were printed, his printed books were actually sent to many of the libraries all around the Western countries. So this is a really, truly pioneering effort. And we see Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's effect is there all over, even in our today's day-to-day life. We see when we read Srimad Bhagavatam, before the Bhagavatam class, we read Jai Radha Madhava. In the noon Aarti, we do Yashodanandan, Yashomati Nandana. In the evening Aarti, we do Kiba Jaya Jaya. And most importantly, when we take Prasadam, we recite the Prasadam prayers, Mahaprasada Govinda. All these were the contributions of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So his contributions are enormous. So the meditation is we would not be where we are as ISKCON, connected with Srila Prabhupada, connected with his Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, who's connected with Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur. We would not be where we are, getting all these spiritual benefits, if it were not for the consolidation activities that Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur did. The other great contribution was giving us the real birthplace of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at Shakti Peeth in Mayapur. So these are his various contributions. So our meditation always on occasions like this should be that we should have gratitude for what we have received in terms of the activities that were carried out by these great acharyas. So that gratitude, if we channel enough to gain that attachment to these acharyas, we are protected, it's purifying, and we will actually be able to channel their mercy. So I'd like to stop right there. Any comments, discussions, if we have time?
If anybody on Zoom wants to ask questions or comments or reflections, please go ahead. Unfortunately, I think at the temple, we have very senior people sitting there, but they, I think, are on YouTube, so won't be able to ask questions. But if anybody on Zoom wants to, has any? All right. I guess not. Thank you very much, Prabhu, for giving us that detailed history. It has been a glorious day today. Since this morning, we have been immersed in hearing about Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur. We saw a little video also at the temple of his kutir that you were talking about. It's been wonderful. And I think, like you were saying, we should be talking about these acharyas on their appearance and disappearance days and learn a lot. And, thank you very much for being a part of it today and giving us this wonderful history.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I guess we'll just end the class here.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.